On this week's episode of the Modern Dealer Podcast, I'm going to talk about Google My Business with Google Posts and Google Products. We're going to talk a little bit about Google Analytics 4, Facebook, automated inventory ads, and offline attribution. All that and more on this week's episode of the Modern Dealer Podcast. Welcome in to a live episode of the Modern Dealer Podcast. My name is David Farmer with Entice. Another solo mission for me here today, 4 o'clock on a Wednesday. I appreciate everybody tuning in or any time that you are checking out the Modern Dealer Podcast. Do me a favor, if you like the Modern Dealer Podcast and you haven't done so already, please do me a favor, hit that subscribe button, hit the notification bell. You'll be notified anytime that we go live or that we upload any content on the channel. So I really appreciate the opportunity. So today, got a lot of information to get into today, but before we get going, let me just get another sip of my coffee here. Got the Pike Place coffee on the Keurig today, and got it set up on the strong setting. So I think this is coffee cup number 5 for me. All right, so today I wanted to spend a little bit of time talking about Google My Business with Google Posts and Google Products. Now, this isn't going to be a full in-depth episode of Google My Business. We've covered that previously on the Modern Dealer Podcast, actually episode 001 from about a year and a half ago. That was the first thing that we covered. A lot of things have changed, a lot of things are the same, but I would highly recommend to go back and check out that first episode and have yourself a little laugh. But today we're going to talk about Google Posts specifically and how you can integrate your products and maybe a strategy to be able to do it. So Google My Business, if you don't know, is your free placement on Google search results for your business that allows you to share a bunch of different pieces of information with potential consumers. Information about where you're located with a link right to Google Maps. It also provides you the ability to share your hours, specific unique selling propositions you might have. Of course, you have the ability to place photos, but also you have the ability to place posts, almost like a Facebook post, right on the Google homepage once a customer searches, and you can integrate your products. And I'm going to share with you a way that we do it for one of our clients and give you maybe some inspiration on how you can get some free ad placement right on the front page of Google without having any cost whatsoever. So what I'm going to do real quick, let me just go over to Google. Let me make sure I am sharing this screen properly so you can see it. So right here, we just did a quick search for a dealership, and you can see on the right-hand side, this is Google My Business for your dealership, for a dealership. It's going to have the Google My Business or the Google reviews. It's going to have all the information about the dealership, the address, the departments. You can customize this information. You can add different departments for your dealership. So if you have different sets of hours for parts or service, or if you have a collision center, you have the ability to create multiple Google My Business accounts, and then you can merge them together so all of the hours will show up here. And of course, customer has the ability to jump in and look at these multiple hours for the multiple departments that you might have at your dealership. There's a couple different strategies you might want to use for Google My Business hours. You can have alternate accounts like we might have for individual Google My Business departments. For example, we have a Toyota Auto Parts store here, and we have the hours that are available specifically for that department. That can be merged right into your main dealership account, like we show right there. You also have the ability to manage these hours right in business.google.com, or you can download the Google My Business iPhone app or Android app, and you can manage all of this right within that within that platform. But one of the things that you're seeing right here now is we have our products added to this dealership's Google My Business account. So products is not something that is going to be available on every single Google My Business account. It was a new feature that was added a couple years ago, and they've slowly rolled this out to existing Google My Business accounts. So if you don't have products available on your Google My Business listing, if you go right to Google, send a support request and request that to be added, they will at some point, don't know how quick they respond, but they will get it added to your dealership's account. And what I'm going to do here real quick is let me just go ahead and view all, and it's going to show me a way that you can utilize the products. Now, you can actually bring in a product feed right into the product section of Google My Business. So if you're not a car dealership and you want to actually bring in a product feed, you have the ability to do that in the back end of the system. But I'm going to share with you a way that you can use the products for a car dealership and how you can keep this updated on a monthly basis. So for what we do is we almost look at this as a display ad. So we will create an individual ad product for each model line a dealership has to offer. So depending on what OEM that you represent, you'd want to just create a new ad for each one of those. Once you open this up, you're going to see that we can use the text for the year, make, and model, and the lease payment if you want to utilize that, which is what we're doing for this dealership. And then we can deep link this right to your dealership's website's specials page. So depending on how you have your specials set up on your dealership website, you are able to drive traffic right from the Google My Business listing in the product section, driving customers right to a deep link page on your dealership's website. Another thing that we do recommend as a best practice is when you create that landing page URL that you add in UTM codes, which would then be discoverable inside of Google Analytics, which we're going to talk about a little bit later with how you can set up UTM codes for that landing page URL and how that gets discoverable in Universal Analytics, which is the existing Google Analytics account, or even GA4, Google Analytics 4, which is the new Google Analytics, which we're going to talk a little bit about today. This is a way that you can use Google My Business to present vehicle offers to customers. Now, I do want to show you real quick on how you can actually also show this right on your phone. So if I'm coming in here, and I'm just going to go right into go to Google's homepage. You can see I just did a search for dealership. Of course, we're going to have an ad that's going to be placed right there at first. But then as you go down in the second position, and sometimes in that very first position, you're going to start to see the Google My Business listing right on that Google search results page. And just I want you to look at how large the content is and understand that this is free. There is no cost for you to be able to do this. So it has all that information right there. The same thing that we saw on the right-hand side in the Google, the Google listing. You're going to see some other organic results. You can see that we have a cars.com result there. We have a Dealer Rater organic result right there. And then we go back into another section from Google My Business that includes these Google posts. So right from here, you can see that we have some experiments that we can share with customers, such as getting their free FICO score right from the Google My Business listing, or move the customer right into trading or selling their vehicle. We can also share other types of posts that we have here, and we can view all of those posts. And now you can see the individual posts that we have set up here. And you can also see that these are you can deep link these right back to your dealership's website utilizing the UTM codes, and I can drive that customer right to a dealership's website. More information is available. Now, if I come back here, continue to go in, you can see, again, these are all free from Google. But you can see that we have all these great shots for the dealership. Then we have the products feed that's available right here, including some additional information about getting a free credit score or a trade value. From here, I can open that up. It's going to give me the full ad, any additional information about the ad. So all of this is available. And again, this is all free ad placement. I don't know if you could pay for any better placement than the first page of Google through the Google My Business posting. So Google My Business posts, Google My Business products. We've done videos in the past again. I just wanted to share that with you. Here's a way that you can utilize that. And that kind of moves me into the next topic that I wanted to cover today on the Modern Dealer Podcast, and that is Google Analytics 4. So I'm sure many of you that are watching the Modern Dealer Podcast are familiar with Google Analytics. Google Analytics is a free tool that allows you to track activity on your dealership's website and what the customer does on your dealership's website. Now, you've probably heard in the last few months that a lot of things are changing in the digital landscape when it comes to mobile devices. You might have heard of the changes that iOS 14 has made on a mobile device in regards to security and privacy, and then also that the iPhone is moving away from allowing websites to utilize cookies to save and share data. So this is kind of an overarching conversation that we've had in the digital landscape really over the last few years. We've talked about on the Modern Dealer Podcast before about Cambridge Analytica, which was the company that was utilizing Facebook for data capture to create audiences, and Cambridge Analytica was a company that came under fire pretty heavily a few years ago about really utilizing Facebook in a way that was non-approved to scrape and save customer data into a database which they could use to then target ads. And that really kind of cracked open this transition that we're still working through right now, where companies like Apple are preventing the use of cookies. So let's just talk a minute about what a cookie is. So it's not really an actual cookie. It is just a little snippet of code that gets placed onto a dealership's website or any website or inside of any applications. That little snippet of code, it allows the device to save information such as customer information, what sites that they've looked at, the URLs, their IP address, other interactions. A lot of this is anonymized, so it's not saving any PII or personally identifiable information, but it's tracking activity to an anonymized ID. So that anonymized ID, Google or other companies like Facebook, they can really create a model of interest for that individual user, and then they can use that to target advertisements. So with, like, for example, retargeting advertisements, you may be using retargeting on your dealership's website right now. When a customer visits the site, they leave and they're off on other websites, whether it's Facebook or something else. You have the ability to send ads to that customer. And depending on how you might be utilizing a cookie, you might even be able to send them ads for specific products that they viewed on your website. Now, you've probably experienced this where you go to you go to, for example, Amazon.com and you look at a product there, and then for the next 30 days, that product is following you around everywhere you go. So they're utilizing cookie data to be able to track your online activity and then target you with these ads. So kind of going all over the place today in regards to Google Analytics and cookies, but there's a very good reason. So a few months ago, I want to say this was back in October of 2020, Google announced a brand new version of Google Analytics. They're calling it GA4 or Google Analytics 4. It's replacing Universal Analytics. Universal Analytics is what we know and love today for that tool to be able to allow you to report on sessions and unique visitors and bounce rates and other KPIs like clicks and what pages customers have visited on and how many pages per visit and all of that. So Universal Analytics has basically been the same platform for analytics for a decade. No major changes to the way that they're utilizing this platform. The reason that cookies are so important in this conversation is Universal Analytics relies basically 100% on the ability for this cookie or this little snippet of code to capture that activity on your dealership's website and other places to report on. So without that cookie, Google Analytics is not going to be able to provide you the type of analytics that you need, such as who's coming to your site, how long they're on your site, what they're doing on your site. So in the background, over the last few years, Google has been trying to figure out how are they going to be able to operate in this post-cookie world. In a cookieless environment, how is Google Analytics going to be able to provide the type of information that we as marketers or you as business owners need to be able to guide your digital landscape? So about a year and a half ago, they released a new property called Web plus App. This was a new type of way to track activity inside of applications and on websites without using a cookie. They're able to collect this information different ways, but not utilizing a cookie. So you're not able to really track a customer from one session to another or from one website to another, being able to identify that. It's going to put that information in a sandbox, not allowing you to go past that. So in a cookie world, Google Analytics was able to say, okay, here's a customer, here's a device, we know who this person is, and we're going to know if that customer comes on the site and during this session does these different things and then ends up coming back a few weeks later. So we're going to know if it's a new visitor or it's a returning visitor, how long they've been there, and so on. And now without that, they have to look at what information can they use without this cookie, without being able to identify that customer. And what they've moved to is, instead of using that cookie as like the main metric calculation tool, they're just utilizing an individual session when a customer comes to a site and what they do as events during that site visit. So fundamentally different solution, Google Analytics 4, utilizing session and events. So if we were to also just jump into a Google Analytics account, I'm going to go into just a test account that I have. It's not going to have any real good data in here, but at least will give us some information. So this is just a test account. This is Google Analytics 4. Now, I did do a video a couple months ago about how to set up Google Analytics 4. So right now, I'm assuming you have Universal Analytics, you have Google Analytics, it's added to your dealership's website. Right now, you're collecting the data. And what you probably don't have, unless you've actually went in and done this, is you can upgrade that Universal Analytics account to also start tracking information for Google Analytics 4. If you don't take that step right now, you're not going to be collecting that information with Google Analytics 4. So at some point in the future, Google Analytics UA is going to go away, and Google Analytics 4 is going to be the new hotness, right? So what we're going to recommend that you do is go ahead and get that set up right now. Start collecting data. So at the point when it's going to make sense to move away from UA into GA4 completely, you're going to have much more historical data. I'm going to link up in the show notes below a link to a video where I take you through step by step on how to add Google Analytics 4 to your existing UA account so you can start collecting data. But what you are going to see once you get this set up and once you're collecting data, you're going to see that everything is going to start to look a little bit different. For example, if I go into acquisition, the acquisition information is going to look different. We are going to start to look at things more from a session by session standpoint, where those customers came from and what they're doing as far as engagement or events. So Google Analytics 4 primarily is going to measure information around individual sessions and the events that customers take. The events are going to include things like page views, scrolls, whether this is going to be first visit or returning visit. Now, as you can see here also, there's other ways that you can enhance the events that might be taking place on your dealership's website. You have the ability to bring other data into Google Analytics. You can fire events through by setting up a Google Tag Manager event tracking right inside of Google Tag Manager. I also did a video about how to set up events in a Google Tag Manager. I'll also hook that up in the bottom in the show notes if you're interested in learning how you can fire custom events. So for example, with our Visa reward card tool, we call that lead maker. We can actually trigger and fire individual click events right into Google Analytics, specifically based on the activity that the customer is taking. We can even bring in individual redemption certificate ID numbers right in here, and then also the individual activity, like did they click the get offer button, did they complete the email part of the form. So a lot of really cool engagement that you can customize inside of Google Tag Manager for Google Analytics 4. And again, you might not be utilizing Google Analytics 4 as your main go-to analytics platform right now because it still is very new. It still is kind of in a beta format, and we're used to using Universal Analytics. But the sooner you start, the more data that you're going to collect, the more useful it's going to be in the future. Once you add that Google Analytics 4 upgrade to your UA account, it's only going to start tracking data from that day forward. It's not going to be able to look backwards in time, even though you have existing Google Analytics script on the account. So today we talked a little bit about Google Analytics 4 versus Universal Analytics, and Google Posts and products with Google My Business. One thing I do want to touch on today, and I don't know how much time we're going to be able to spend on this, just based on how much time we have left for the podcast today. But for example, what we want to be able to do is talk about Facebook automated inventory ads and Facebook offline sales attribution. So AIA, automated inventory ads for Facebook. The reason I wanted to bring this up is the more I talk to dealers, the more I see that there's some main features in Facebook inventory ads that they're not taking advantage of, and they're very simple, and they provide really a much better experience for your end user, which is going to increase the engagement with customers on your automotive inventory ads in Facebook. And then also how that's going to translate into true sales from your dealership that you can actually attribute to customers that have interacted with these inventory ads. So let's just take a minute and go, okay, so Facebook, we know what Facebook is, automated inventory ads. So what are automated inventory ads? Facebook allows you to utilize a data feed from certified data providers, which we can help you with that. And we can get your inventory into what Facebook calls a catalog. This inventory catalog is a live representation of all of your inventory that resides on your dealership's website. It's going to include all the information such as year, make, model, trim, miles, price, all of the information about the vehicle. It's also going to include all of the images that you have on your website right into Facebook. Now, with this, you're able to do a couple different things with that Facebook inventory catalog. Number one, you can sync that up directly into Facebook Marketplace, which is kind of like Craigslist on Facebook. It's a free marketplace where you can post your used cars only, and it gives the customer the ability to search around. And now when they search for your inventory, they're also going to be searching everybody else's inventory. They're also going to be searching anything else that might be on Marketplace, which can include, you know, an old bicycle or a lawnmower at the same time that they're searching for, you know, a brand new vehicle or a used vehicle from your dealership. It's a little bit clunky in my opinion on how you can actually do a good quality used vehicle search, but it's a free marketplace and you should be doing it. If you're not doing it right now and you want some assistance, of course, that's something that we can help you do as well. Just please reach out to me at david@entice.com, and I'm happy to do that for you. Now, additionally, that catalog that we can create inside of Facebook, we can use that to drive automated inventory ads. And I'm sure you've all seen it, and most of you probably already have these on Facebook. And if you don't, you should be. We're getting incredible results from our dealerships that we're running these automated inventory advertisements. Now what it's going to do is it's going to take your vehicles and it's going to place them in a carousel style ad. There's a couple different variations of how these ads work. One of them is going to be just kind of like the standard carousel. So we have that primary image for each one of your vehicles in this ad set, and as the customer finds that ad in your in their Facebook feed, and they're going to be able to flip and thumb through all the vehicles, and if they click on it, you can either drive that customer's click to Marketplace if you wanted to, or you can drive it right to your dealership's VDP URL, or you can even drive the customer to any other type of URL where maybe you might want to drive that customer right into a digital retailing technology like you can do with our Shopper Express technology. The other type of ad is you can have like an automated slideshow where it's going to take 5 or 6 images of each vehicle, and for each carousel placement, it'll automatically just go through a nice animated slideshow of the images right in there. These work very well. The engagement rate is super high on these types of ads. They cut the image off a little bit weird in those, so they're not my favorite, even though they are very effective. Most inventory images, as you know, are rectangle. They're a 16:9 aspect ratio. And those types of slideshow ads are a 1:1, which cut off each of the sides. And this brings me to the original first type that I discussed, which is the carousel style. And one of the pet peeves that I have is when I see these ads and I see a big white bar on top and a white bar on the bottom underneath and above the inventory image itself. So that represents about 1/3 of the available image space as you are presenting your vehicle to the customer. So it gives you a great opportunity to put in maybe a unique selling proposition or your dealership's logo or maybe any other type of call to action that you can have right in there. Now to add this, what you need to do is you just have to add a custom frame. So right in the back-end system of Facebook inventory advertisement platform, you have the ability to add in a custom frame. You can build out a custom frame that is a transparent GIF that has a cutout for the image itself, where the image of the car will be underneath that frame. I think what I'm going to do is do a full video about how to create a inventory frame, and I'll post that to our YouTube channel as well. I do have another video which I'll link up below here with more information on what that actually looks like. So I'm going to share that with you as well. The last thing that we're going to talk about today in the Modern Dealer podcast is Facebook sales attribution. Now with Facebook sales attribution, what you have the ability to do is find out how effective these advertisements are on the Facebook platform, on the Instagram platform, and you can actually even extend that to other digital platforms. And so in a very basic sense, what Facebook offline attribution allows you to do is to take your sales data from your dealership CRM or your DMS. You can export that. So I would say you do this on a monthly basis. You export all of your sales from the first to the end of the month, so you have a representation of all of your sales for the month. You can include a profit margin if you want in that report, which Facebook would be able to show you what your return on ad spend would be if you do it this way. But make sure you include the first name, last name, email address, any phone numbers that you have for the customer, all of that customer information. Now, once you upload you format it in the way that allows you to upload that into the Facebook offline attribution platform. What's going to happen then is behind the scenes, Facebook is going to take that customer information. They're first going to match it to anybody that they can from on a Facebook account. So they're going to know who that customer is based on an email address, on a match, on a physical address. They have a lot of Facebook has a lot of information about individual consumers. Generally speaking, they can match over 90% of your customer sales to a Facebook account. Since they can match it to a Facebook account, now they're going to actually be able to see how many customers interacted with, clicked on, or any other type of interaction with an ad that they've seen on the Facebook platform, and then they can show that attribution. So it's not an only attribution, right? It is an attribution to say, okay, this customer did see an ad, clicked on an ad. They can even tell you which campaign it was in, what ad type that they clicked on. And then you can say, okay, that customer ultimately purchased a vehicle, showing true sales attribution, something that, digital marketers like myself have been trying to get to this point of data to really prove out how successful these individual campaigns are. So we are living in an age right now where we're able to do that. It's a little bit difficult and a little bit clunky to get things set up, but once it's all set up, the amount of visibility that you have into the effectiveness of your campaigns is phenomenal. So specifically, it's going to have a look back window of anywhere from 7 days just on the true Facebook attribution, or if we move over to the full attribution reporting platform inside of Facebook, we can actually open that look back window up to 90 days, meaning that did a customer interact with an ad, click on an ad, or just view an ad? We recommend using that 90-day click and a 7-day view. So if they saw an ad within 7 days or clicked on an ad within the last 90 days, we're going to want to show that attribution. So for some of our dealerships, we're able to attribute 30 to 50% of their sales to advertisements that we've run on the Facebook platform. Now, the Facebook attribution reporting platform also allows you to link up your Google Ads account, your Google Marketing Platform or DV360 account, which is what we use for our video and for our display technology. And that allows us to report on not only Facebook, but also Google Ads and organic, and also video ads through the YouTube platform, and for display advertisements, really kind of giving you this 360-degree view of your digital advertising paid footprint and how that is going to net out into real sales. So that is kind of an overview of the Facebook sales attribution platform with the offline attribution. We're going to continue to dig into these topics on future Modern Dealer podcasts. So today we're going to get things wrapped up, but before we do, let me just go ahead and get another sip here if you don't mind. I'll go ahead and get this different camera angle. There we go. All right, so today's episode, my show notes, Google My Business. We talked about Google Posts and Google Products, free advertisement placements for your dealership right on the Google homepage just by searching out your dealership's name. On mobile, on desktop, you can manage it from your mobile device. You can manage it right from your desktop as well. Talked a little bit about the new Google Analytics 4 platform, why it's important to get that set up on your Google Analytics account right now so we can start tracking data. We're not recommending that you fully go over to Google Analytics 4. You're going to continue to want to use UA as long as we can, but we are quickly moving into a time when that's just not going to be nearly as useful as it has in the past because cookies are going away. Lastly, the last thing that we talked about today is the AIA, Automated Inventory Ads. Ton more things to talk about for Facebook advertising. A ton more things to talk about how you can use the Google or the Facebook offline sales attribution. Make one more last bid for you to do me a favor. If you're enjoying this, even if you're not enjoying this, do me a favor. Hit that subscribe button, subscribe to the Modern Dealer Podcast. If you hit the notification bell, you'll be notified every time we go live or we upload another video to the Modern Dealer Podcast. You can find us on YouTube. You can find us on Apple Podcasts. For David from Entice, that's a wrap.